the reason I bring up WrestleMania is obviously not just talk WrestleMania with you, but for this show, you had a piece about basically how cancel culture did or didn't come for Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
Why don't you give us the rundown here?
So I didn't try to belabor the cancel culture part too much. I mean, it's there, but I didn't want to hammer that part home. It's there a little bit at the beginning and more so at the end. What I really wanted to do was, because this, Hogan had already been back in the WWE mix, but here he's in his hometown co-hosting WrestleMania with fellow Tampa native Titus O'Neil, who is, one, a black man, two, the person in pro wrestling, really the most prominent person in general, to call out like the specifics of why Hogan's apologies for his transgressions with racist ranting and the N-word appeared to be bullshit. So with that in mind, and then also WWE Network moving to Peacock in the United States, NBC's premium streaming service, something that got noticed very quickly by a bunch of people is that Peacock was editing out things that, in most cases, rightfully, they deemed racist bullshit. It's pretty much all been blackface or the N-word in some form so far. They're not going to find much of the latter other than the infamous Vince McMahon calling John Cena his N-word with an A. But, blackface, there's been more of it. They're not going to find a ton. And I think what made it really clear that they're mainly concentrating on that stuff is they even cut out, as they're adding the archival content little by little, they say they'll be done by August, they edited out a segment from late 97 for when Goldust became a bad guy again and became the artist formerly known as Goldust. Actually, I don't think he was called the artist formerly known as Goldust yet, but he was becoming this weirder, darker character, and instead of having the mostly gold paint with black accents, he had black paint with very little bit of gold accents. And they cut the segment where he's painted like that out. Now, they did also cut out a segment where he actually wears blackface a few months later. But that makes it fairly clear what type of stuff they're looking for. They don't seem to have any issue with right now how WWE took Apollo Crews, who's I believe he's American-born from Nigerian descent, and all of a sudden started having him talk in a Nigerian accent, become a bad guy, talk about embracing his background, and carrying a fucking spear to the ring.
Jesus.
Yeah,
right.
Like, the whole thing's kind of bad, but, like, I'm surprised the spear thing, because it's just so on-the-nose racist, hasn't gotten more play. I mean, I think it kind of shows how disconnected people are from WWE right now and disengaged. Because, I mean, that's on SmackDown. SmackDown's their most watched show. It's the one on network television. And nothing. So you've got that, and you got some little bits of stereotyping still and other stuff. Peacock doesn't seem to be concerned with that. They seem to be only concerned with the absolute worst, most overt stuff that they don't want to be near. That said, though, still weird to take the Hogan stuff into account, so what I really wanted to do was lay out, here's what happened, here's what he said that got him in trouble, here's how he claimed he was apologizing, here's how he claimed to be apologizing later privately to various wrestlers, etc. And here's how his apology was such bullshit, yet here's all the shit he did, and he doesn't seem to have really faced any consequences.
Do you think that's it? Hogan's back in the good graces of pro wrestling?
To whatever extent cancel culture may exist, unless something new happens, I don't think so.
That's what I should add. That's what I mean when I mean, the whole idea that Hulk Hogan has gotten away with all this is proof to me that cancel culture, again, is bullshit. Just another, but that's why I worded it in that way, to be funny. But go ahead.
I mean, look, there are things that have happened that people have gone overboard about, whatever, but, like, cancel culture has lost all meaning with the Dr. Seuss thing and the potato head thing and all that. Like, it just has. Or the the Muppet Show thing or the disclaimers on the other stuff, like all that. Like it's
Let me tell you something, brother. You want to cancel me for saying the N-word? That's one thing. But you want to stop publishing a few of
right.
Dr. Seuss's books? Well, let me tell you something, Jack. Not on my
Oh,
watch.
excuse me, I forgot the best one actually. So, which was Dumbo on Disney Plus. That they canceled Dumbo.
They didn't even cancel Dumbo. They just moved him. They moved him. They moved.
They moved the movie out into a different parental controls tier.
Yes, I mean, come on. That's such. Who cares about that?
Like the Muppet Show at least had a disclaimer on a few episodes. Like Dumbo, I think they did add a disclaimer too, but they, like, the thing that people were really getting upset over was what's that?
Who the hell is even using parental controls on Disney Plus? Like, I could see if it was Netflix or something where there's a lot of, like, you know, rated R or like adult movies or scary movies, and they don't want kids to see this stuff. But like when I say adult movies, I mean,
do they
violent.
not have anything that's like PG-13
Disney
or
Plus? I mean, I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess now that they own the Fox library, the 20th Century Fox library, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's 20th stuff. I'm sure there's Miramax was them, wasn't it?
Yeah, they bought Miramax. That's true.
Right, like I'm sure there's stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
I don't have Disney Plus.
Come
right,
on.
Right.
Parental controls on Disney Plus. Who cares, man? Like, people are gonna really cry about that stuff. Like, such small bore, like, things to whine about. Like, and first of all, Dumbo's not even that great of a movie.
Right, and then also like acting like the racism in the scene with the crows isn't obvious. A, there are a bunch of jive-talking animated crows. B, one of them is named Jim.
Jim, right? Jim Crow, right?
Yeah, like, come on. Like, now, do I think there's a conversation to be had about the disclaimer versus editing approach? Yes.
Oh yeah, of course. I personally think that these things shouldn't be edited. I think they should be. I mean, they should be uploaded or put on these streaming services for people to see.
And just contextualize.
There should be there should be a disclaimer before them. So, because otherwise, I feel like it's just these companies are just trying to whitewash their own histories for their own benefits, really. So I feel like it should be up there. People should be able to watch. People should be able to understand this stuff. I mean, a lot of it makes sense in the context of when it was made and what they were trying to do. And you should understand this stuff to get a healthy view of how things were being done during that time. I mean, if they don't want to air it, they don't want to air it. But the idea that you would edit it is much different to me. Either put it up or don't. But if you're going to edit it, that's just, that's ridiculous.
Well, especially the way WWE and Peacock have been doing it, where they barely acknowledge that it's happening.
Right. They should just put a disclaimer before this stuff. I mean, the idea that you would edit it out, not even mention it, but still have the full event minus the parts you wanted edited out, is just not. Yeah.
Yeah, and now WWE, and I should know too, it didn't happen at the same time, but I don't know if it's a contractual thing or what. They have made the same edits on the international version of WWE Network since the Peacock move happened. It took time, but they happened. They weren't right away. They weren't right in sync with each other.
Like for example, like the Dr. Seuss, the books that aren't being published by Dr. Seuss anymore. One of them is because of how Dr. Seuss portrayed a Chinese man. With
which was actually something that that had already been changed from the original version of the book.
Right, he was originally yellow, like literally colored yellow.
Well, it was two things. He was colored yellow, and he was also referred to as a Chinaman.
Right. I recall that, but like
they may have actually changed it twice. I think they may have done the recoloring first and then changed China. I
mean, if you have a problem with it, they did the right thing. No longer publish that book. The idea that they would edit it, and just edit it out or replace it with a different drawing is just absurd. Like, it just doesn't.
Right. Now, I'm not sure where I stand on Amazon. Well, maybe not Amazon. It's eBay. eBay's the one that was definitely blocking listings of the books. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, technically, based on the books and why they were chosen to not print them anymore, do they fall under, the hateful content policy? Yes. But that is different from the Seuss estate choosing not to publish them anymore. Do I necessarily, like, again, I don't know how I feel about that, because that is going a little further. Not letting people sell their used books like that. I'm not sure exactly where I fall with that yet. But again, it's like, that's not cancel culture. That's not cancellation. They made the decision on their own. You know, did they maybe announce it because of the controversy over Cat in the Hat being removed from like one school district's reading day like posters and stuff? Maybe. But even then, like, that was only done because it's like, okay, we want to actually make this more about reading than Dr. Seuss. And again, that's not cancellation. They decided on their own not to publish anything anymore after it had been in print for like 60 years. Like, come on. That's not cancellation.
Right.
Putting a disclaimer on a few, I want to say it was like single-digit percentage episodes of The Muppet Show that have things that are not quite politically correct anymore. That's not cancel culture. The Dumbo thing's not cancel culture. Like, if there is a like, here's the other thing too. Like, a few years ago, when people started using cancel, and that eventually led to the term cancel culture, they were using it for people who, like, just were what's the word I'm looking for? Shunned for, like, really, like, objectively terrible shit. You know? Like, I feel like I remember first hearing it after the R. Kelly documentary or something like that.
Right, right.
So, like, I mean, even then, like, the usage as it was has kind of been co-opted. It's a whole thing. But again, like, now that the right-wing talking heads have gone so far in the direction where they're very obviously just bullshitting, it's like, okay, this is just not a thing. Maybe there is a thing that vaguely resembles the term as it initially existed. Maybe. I don't necessarily think so. But the thing you are talking about does not exist.
Right. Right.